Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Elizabeth Joki. This is Njogu and Associate Advocate. So I'd like to welcome all of us. For those that are joining us for the first time in our webinar series, we usually do webinars. It's been a culture for our firm. And in the last season of our webinars, we were doing webinars on corporate governance, but we took a brief break. But now we are back on our live webinars. And today, we want to discuss a very intriguing subject on ransomware in the digital assets space. Our speaker today is Sewe Wycliffe, professional with extensive expertise in blockchain, forensics, and cryptocurrency investigations. He's also the managing partner at A&D Forensics East Africa, where he leads a team dedicated to providing top-notch forensic services in the region. Also, our speaker has a background in criminology and security studies, and this has helped him to bring understanding in the space of criminal behavior and security protocols to his work. He was previously the head of cryptocurrency investigations at Crime Shield Security Limited, and this role helped to hone his skills in navigating the complexities of digital financial transactions and investigating illicit activities. Additionally, our speaker is a certified blockchain forensics and cryptocurrency investigator. He's well equipped to tackle the challenges posed by emerging technologies in the realm of financial crime, and his dedication to staying ahead of the curve ensures that A&D Forensics East Africa, where he's a managing partner, remains at the forefront of forensic investigation in the region. Currently, Sewe is enhancing his credentials by pursuing the Certified Fraud Examiners professional course with the Association of Certified Fraud Examiners. And this commitment to continuous learning underscores his dedication to maintaining the highest professional standards. And lastly, Mr. Sewe Wycliffe is a distinguished professional poised to make significant contributions to the field of financial crime, prevention, and investigation. Quite a detailed and heavy profile of Mr. Sewe, our speaker today. I'm sure he has a lot of insights to share with us today, and I'm pretty sure that all of us are looking forward to learn much. For some of us, this could be a very new topic, probably had nothing about it. And some of us, we are probably familiar with the topic, but all of us, we are here to learn. So without much ado, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to give the floor to Wycliffe Sewe. Karibu sana.
All right, thank you so much, Madam Joki, for the welcome. And as you've just heard, my name is Wycliffe, and of course, Madam Joki has already highlighted on some of the things that we normally do. I'll be, in our presentation, of course, it's divided into segments. We are going to have a presentation just to take you guys through, and then immediately after that, we'll also be having a session for the Q&A sessions. And then from there now, at least to be a good moment for also interaction. So I do believe probably by the time we'll be done, it's my hope that you'll already learn one or two things, especially for those people who are new when it comes to matters of virtual assets. So I'm sharing my screen. I do believe you guys can be able to see my screen.
Sure, we can see your screen.
All right, good. So as I've been told, I'm currently the managing partner for A&D Forensics East Africa branch. And with A&D Forensics, we are the Africa's leading blockchain intelligence service provider. And this only shows some of the services that we are offering in-house. We conduct prospective crypto customer onboarding audits. We offer compliance as a service for virtual assets and virtual assets providers together with Web3 startups. And we also offer litigation support on virtual assets. We also do support the law enforcement through trainings and offering comprehensive digital and forensic services. And we equip practitioners with comprehensive courses which we have in-house. And that's the Certified Cryptocurrency Compliance Specialist course, Certified Cryptocurrency Investigator. And then also we have blockchain and cryptocurrency for accountants. These are only some of the courses also that we're currently offering in-house. So disclaimer, it's good always to start with a disclaimer. Of course, the information which we're going to present today does not constitute legal, tax, investment, or financial advice. This is just an introduction. It's just an introduction to give you basic knowledge of blockchain technology and virtual assets and their nexus with the criminal activities. All right. So the agendas that we're going to have today, of course, it's a mixture of both soft and hard. I normally love calling this soft and hard meat. I do believe at one point in our lives we have interacted with both soft meat and hard meat. And soft in this essence, it's because we are going to touch an overview of just an introductory bit to get to understand what is blockchain technology all about and these virtual assets. And probably it might get a little bit, I don't want to call it that hard, but a little bit tightened, especially when we shall be touching on some of the risks element involved in cryptocurrency or virtual assets, and more so when we'll be touching on the real case tracking a ransomware from infection, negotiation, payment to laundering of funds. All right. And then, of course, we shall touch more or less the role of blockchain analytics, which plays a key role when it comes to illegal activities which normally happens in the virtual asset space. And then, of course, we'll touch on the role of law and policy in enhancing the use of virtual assets in Kenya. And then through that, we will also have the Q&A sessions. I think these are some of the agendas we're going to have today. So in the next couple of minutes, ladies and gentlemen, I do believe you have a pen and a notebook as well to jot down some of the things which probably you find useful during my presentation. All right. With that being said and done, I do believe that when we normally talk about digital assets is basically a broad component. And broad in this essence is because a digital asset is basically an asset that exists in a digital form and which includes a right of use. And whenever we are talking about digital assets, of course, we're talking about the likes of cloud storage, digital media, graphics, or document, the PDF documents. And these are some of the things that we have interacted in one way or another in our lifetime, all right? But as the world for digital assets continues to expand, we also continue to see some new elements being introduced into the digital asset space. And one of the key things or one of the key new introductions to the digital asset space, of course, is the crypto. And with crypto, I know majority usually refer to crypto as digital assets, given that it also has some of the qualities or features of what a digital asset basically entails. Some people normally refer to crypto as virtual assets, some other virtual currency, or just simply as crypto. And of course, as we all know, with cryptocurrencies, what basically usually happens, they normally utilize what is called the cryptography for security, and they usually work independently of a central authority, which means that there is no any central governing authority which can be able to control the cryptocurrency operations. And that's why we normally talk about the decentralized nature of cryptocurrencies. And something which is very much interesting is that you can never talk about cryptocurrencies without touching on blockchain, right? Because this is the technology which is behind, which drives the operations of cryptocurrency. I know for some people, anytime we touch on blockchain, they normally think of cryptocurrency alone. But blockchain technology is actually a very broad technology, and it has got various use cases. Cryptocurrency is just one of the use cases within the technology. Of course, right now we've been seeing people utilizing blockchain technology in matters of land registry. We've seen blockchain technology being used in agriculture, in supply chain management, in different types of industries as well. All right. So for those people probably who are new into this concept of blockchain technology, I just want you guys to understand that this is just a distributed and open ledger, all right? And it consists of blocks, and these blocks usually contain information. And I believe you can be able to see from my diagram a block which contains information, and these blocks are usually arranged in a chain format. And through this arrangement is basically what normally entails or what normally brings its name to the blockchain. So ideally, how then does this blockchain work now that people normally keep talking left, right, and center about the blockchain technology? And blockchain technology has adopted a very interesting concept. And what normally happens whenever a transaction is requested within the blockchain ecosystem, this block or this particular transaction is usually sent to different types of node. That copy of transaction is usually distributed to various types of nodes. These nodes are decentralized, right? There is no any single place or there is no any single node which controls these types of transactions. And that is actually what makes blockchain to have its decentralized nature. So some of the nodes are probably distributed in America, some of the nodes are distributed in Europe. So it even makes it a little bit hard for you to change the nature of transactions which happens within the blockchain technology space, right? For example, I love using this analogy. We've been seeing mostly in Kenya with the current ongoing protest. We've been seeing the Gen Zs, the people who are calling themselves the Gen Zs. And during the protest, they are actually mentioning that they are leaderless. Leaderless basically means they don't have like a central leader who controls most of their operations as Gen Zs, right? So that similar concept basically works within the blockchain ecosystem. There is no any central computer, central authority which controls these transactions. So once these transactions have been transferred to every node, what normally happens within the nodes, they validate these transactions. And once validation has been made, once the validation has been made for the node which probably is quick to validate a transaction, it receives a rewards, and then that block becomes added to the existing blockchain, and therefore the transaction becomes complete. So with that being said and done, I know probably when, as I started, we mentioned about crypto and blockchain. And of course, the most known cryptocurrency in the virtual asset space is Bitcoin. And allow me, before I touch on Bitcoin a little bit, allow me just to go back and share with you guys the ancient story about the rice stone. In life, we normally say that history loves repeating itself. Right now, blockchain technology and Bitcoin might sound a little bit futuristic or something emerging technologies, but bear in mind, the concept of blockchain technology existed sometimes back in history, all right? And what normally happens when we say that history usually repeats itself is only that right now, when we're seeing these blockchain transactions happening, it's probably just a facelifting which has happened, but the concept existed sometimes in the past. So it's also a story which I'll probably challenge you guys to go and read much deeper about it. But basically, with the ancient rice stones, what used to happen with the Yap people, the Yapis, they live, who used to live with the Yap Island. Their main source or their main when they used to conduct exchange, or their main key source of value was derived from the rice stone. And what used to happen with this rice stone? The villagers or the people who used to acquire this particular stone, they used to drive miles and or they used to sail miles and miles and miles, and they used to go and mine this stone. And what used to happen? Mining of these stones were very difficult, all right? And that's why they used to attach so much value to these particular stones, because the process of mining them so that they can be able to be brought back into the community, that process was tedious, that process was a very difficult process. So, for example, let's say as say Wycliffe, I've mined my rhinestone and I've brought it back to the community. So, anytime I wanted to sell my rhinestone, what used to happen, I could call upon the entire community, right? I could call upon the entire community, and I could let the community that I'm now transferring the value of this stone, let's say to Njoki. All right. So basically, that's what used to happen. So the entire community will now know that this particular stone ceases to belong to say Wycliffe, but right now the only person who has got the rights for this particular story is Njoki, because I've now transferred ownership. And it used to happen in the presence of the entire community, so that in case any person could probably emerge from somewhere and decided to claim ownership of these particular stones, he had to convince, let's say, probably a majority of the community in order for him probably to steal it in that instance. So with that same similar concept is the concept which blockchain has been working on, right? So that clearly tells you this is something that existed in the past. It's only that now when we are in the 21st century, it's just more or less like a facelift of something that was experienced back in the past. So whenever we are talking about the features of blockchain and basically what makes them a little bit more attractive to most people, features of blockchain basically goes in hand with Bitcoin, given that it's the technology which powers Bitcoin as a currency. It's because of the faster settlements which it has. It's more secure, it's more decentralized, census distributed, unanimous, and immutable. As I mentioned, immutable basically means these transactions cannot be changed, right? So how did everything start then? It's good to understand. And especially now that we've mentioned that blockchain, Bitcoin basically made people to understand about blockchain. So with Bitcoin, back then in 18th of August 2008, that's when the domain name bitcoin.org was registered. And then on 31st October 2008, that's when the Bitcoin design paper was published. So you need to also realize that anytime a new cryptocurrency is being introduced to the market, there is always what is called the white paper, and this white paper usually details the project scope, what that particular cryptocurrency is supposed to solve, the kind of solutions which this cryptocurrency is coming into the market space. So in the 9th of November, Bitcoin project got registered, and then to 3rd January 2009, the Genesis block was established, and then 9th January 2009, Bitcoin Volume 1 was released and announced in the cryptography mailing list. And then on 12th January 2009, that's when we had the first Bitcoin transaction, and this was done by none other than Satoshi Nakamoto. I believe people have heard about Satoshi Nakamoto. Of course, he's a very anonymous person. We don't know whether he's an individual or a group of people who basically invented Bitcoin. But with the name, people normally normally think that given that Satoshi sounds a little bit more Asianish, some people think that it comes from Asia, but it's something which has not been proven. Yes. So with Satoshi, he did the first transaction with Hal Finney, and Hal Finney is believed to be among the people who are considered to be the early adopters of Bitcoin. So also basically challenge you at your own free time. You can go and read much about Hal Finney. But allow me also to touch on how Bitcoin usually gets introduced to the market space, all right? So for the new Bitcoins to be generated, or for the new Bitcoins to be circulated within the blockchain ecosystem, there is a process which is called mining. And with the mining, this is usually done by different nodes, which competes to solve complex mathematical puzzles, all right? So these puzzles, they're generated through computers, and that's why I normally tell guys, for those people who are thinking of jumping to the mining business of Bitcoin, it is not as easy as you think, because with this particular exercise, it's very capital intensive. It consumes a lot of energy. It requires a lot of advanced machines for you to be able to compete in this particular exercise of solving these puzzles, right? So again, what normally happens within the Bitcoin ecosystem, once Bitcoin has been mined, suppose I want to transfer my Bitcoins, let's say from my end to Njoki's end, then it means I'll need to have what is called a Bitcoin wallet, right? So with the wallet addresses only enables you to be in a position to send and receive cryptocurrencies or Bitcoin, right? So what normally happens within the Bitcoin space, we normally have different types of wallets. So with these different types of wallets, we've got those wallets which normally begins with the prefix 1, which are called the legacy addresses. We've got those wallet addresses which begins with the prefix 3, which are called the segwit addresses. We've got those ones which begins with the BC1P, which are called the taproots, and then the native segwit addresses which begins with BC1. I know, as I mentioned to you guys, during our trainings, we normally touch into details about these types of addresses and how, and we normally discuss also some of the reasons why people normally focus on, let's say, legacy addresses as opposed to segwit addresses, and why people will prefer to use a taproot address as opposed to a native segwit address. Those are some of the discussions we normally have in depth whenever we are conducting our trainings back in our class, right? So, creation of a Bitcoin address, right? You need to understand before you participate in the cryptocurrency space when it comes to doing transactions, you need to have what is called a cryptocurrency wallet address. And this is one of the things which basically makes cryptocurrency a little bit more user-friendly, and more the reason why people are looking forward to adopting crypto assets is because for you to create an account is just like a blink of an eye, right? So we normally have a site, an open source JavaScript enabled platform, which enables you to generate your wallet addresses. And probably this one, I will probably take like 1 minute just to show you how it's very much easy to generate a wallet address. And from there, you can be able now to conduct, you can continue to conduct transactions. So allow me just to do this. Allow me to allow me to share this is my other screen. I don't know whether you guys can be able to see my new screen. Are you guys able to see my new screen?
Yes.
Probably yes. All right.
Yes.
Now, so generating a Bitcoin wallet address so that you guys get to know how this thing happens very fast within a blink of an eye. This is just the open source JavaScript platform which enables you to create your address. So you can see as I continue to move my cursor within this particular JavaScript, my wallet address is currently being generated. And by the time I'm hitting 100%, what normally happens, there we go, a wallet address has been generated. And with this particular wallet address, you can be able to see it has got 2 segments. It has got what you can be able to share and something which is secret, right? So with the wallet address, what usually happens, it usually contains 2 types of keys. That's the public key, which you are supposed to share, and then with the private key, which remains secret, right? So suppose I want to share my Bitcoins or my cryptocurrencies to Njoki. What Njoki will basically request me to share with her, it will be my public address, which is the one which I'm supposed to share. Then what normally happens with the private key, that is the secret key or my PIN or my passcode, which I'll be using to access the cryptocurrencies which Njoki has sent to me. So apparently that's how it's very much easy for you to create a cryptocurrency wallet or a cryptocurrency account so that you can be able to conduct transactions. And in order, for example, let's say you want to just have as many as these addresses as possible, you can just be clicking generate new address and you can be able to see it just happened within a blink of an eye. That clearly tells you how the world of virtual assets, things have been made so easy, super efficient, very fast, and that's why even the transactions which happen within that blockchain ecosystem are usually very fast as well. So allow me to go back to my presentation so that we can continue. Share, there we go. All right, already we have covered about that. So allow me to come to the crypto assets ownership. Now with some of the usefulness, of course, which we have discussed when I was touching about Bitcoin, some of the usefulness when I was talking about when we were talking about creating a cryptocurrency wallet address. According to crypto.com, this is the research which was done back then. And by last year, December 2023, they indicated that almost we have 580 million people who are currently owning crypto assets. All right. And of course, personally, from where I stand, I know that maybe by the time we shall be finishing off with 2024, we are likely to experience an enormous jump or an enormous increase. The reason being, for those people who have been following keenly or closely with the US campaigns, one of the presidential candidates actually being backed strongly with the crypto community, and he also happened to have selected his vice president to be someone who participates in the blockchain ecosystem or the cryptocurrency ecosystem. So I am anticipating probably by 2024 or maybe 2025, this number will probably be shifting to closer to 1 billion, right? That clearly tells you how people are aggressive, how people are basically embracing the world of virtual assets very fast. With that being said and done, with the number of cryptocurrencies which are currently in circulation to the market, according to CoinMarketCap, of course, we have over 2.4 million different types of cryptocurrencies which are in circulation in the market. And what does it tell you? It tells you that every time a new cryptocurrency is being introduced, what normally happens with these people who are creating these tokens, they're basically looking at some of the gaps within the ecosystem, maybe some of the solutions which Bitcoin was not able to solve, or probably Ethereum was not able to solve, and then they try to create their tokens and they circulate it to the market. And one way which you talked on how cryptocurrencies usually get circulated to the market, of course, it's through mining. And of course, also another way which cryptocurrencies usually get circulated to the market, we have got what are called the airdrops. And for those people who normally follow me keenly on my LinkedIn post, I love posting about these things so that you can get to understand and read much about them. And also, we have got another way which is called the ICO, that's the initial coin offerings. Okay. With virtual assets or with the digital assets, of course, they normally come with different classifications, right? So what normally happens is that we normally have those cryptocurrency or virtual assets which operate within their own blockchain, right? The cryptocurrencies which operate within their own blockchain, they usually referred to as the native cryptocurrencies because they're operating within their blockchain. For example, the native tokens that we normally have are the likes of Bitcoin, Ethereum, Tron, and etc. Then we have another generation of cryptocurrencies which do not operate within their own blockchain. They're basically dependent on the already established blockchains within the ecosystem, and the likes of smart contracts and the fungible tokens, where we can be able to get stable coins. I do believe maybe probably for those people who have tuned in, you get to understand what are stable coins, the governance tokens, utility tokens, and the NFTs and others as well. So maybe just in a nutshell, to let you to know, just to let you know what these types of virtual assets, their uses. Of course, with the payment token, we normally talk about those tokens which are being used as a medium of exchange or goods or services, and also they store value. Then we have the property token. This represents the right in movable property or movable property. Then we have the utility token, which facilitates the exchange of or access of specific goods, and then the security tokens. And this is one of the topics which have been causing a lot of debates among the regulators and policymakers, because with the regulators, in order for you to regulate virtual assets, you need to understand which classification, which type of classification this particular virtual assets belong. And we've been seeing across the globe some of the landmark rulings, especially with the Security Exchange Commissions. Anytime there is a case which has been presented before them and they're presenting it to court, we have been seeing even some of the courts are dropping these cases because initially probably it was mistaken as a utility token only once it has been started with a lot of due diligence to find that this particular token belongs to become to be a property token. So I think with the regulators or the legal experts who are in the house, I think this is some of the key areas which you also need to be very much keen, especially when we're developing a legal framework, regulatory framework, is how best we are going to probably have proper classification when it comes to these virtual assets which are currently being used within the Kenyan ecosystem. I think with that being said and done, this is just an addition of some of the use case, some of the benefits of what makes cryptocurrencies to be widely adopted. Of course, it's because of little to no transaction cost, and they normally operate 24/7. 24/7, you can be able to access money, and there no limits on purchase and withdrawals. and freedom for use to anyone, whether you are a white person or you are a black person or whatever person you are, you can be able to use a cryptocurrency, all right? So there is that freedom. And of course, one of the key things or one of the major importance or usefulness is the international transactions, which are a bit faster. And maybe probably for those people who have ever done international transfers, you can concur with me with how sometimes it can be difficult when you are sending money, let's say from Kenya, probably to a country in South Africa. Personally, sometimes, but a friend of mine sent me some money from abroad, and it became so much difficult to access this particular money. So when I went to the bank, and they had to request most of my details from there. They had to question me. They had to ask me a lot of questions. And they were like, do you know Kenya is one of the countries which has been flagged, and it's a red flag, it's a high-risk country. And they needed to know what this money is really meant for. So you can imagine those are some of the hindrances which we've been facing, especially when it comes to traditional transactions or using the fiat money. But now with cryptocurrencies coming in place, international transactions are a little bit much more faster. Now, with all those benefits which we have discussed about, ladies and gentlemen, with every technology, of course, there are always what are called key challenges, which could be hindering the massive adoption. And when it comes to blockchain and cryptocurrencies, one of the key challenges that I need you guys to get to understand is the lack of adoption. And lack of adoption basically means is that still most of the corporate organizations are using what are called the legacy systems. Legacy systems are the traditional kind of systems which we are using in our corporate setups, right? So most of the corporate organizations have not yet adopted this blockchain solution. They still need a lot of more awareness and more trainings in order for them to see the need of having a blockchain technology within their corporate setting. All right. Then we have scalability issues. With the scalability issues, basically it means, and for those people who have ever been keen, who have been transacting within the blockchain ecosystem, you've been seeing every single day, you have been having new blockchains which are currently being introduced to the ecosystem. We have got Bitcoin. With Bitcoin, there is only a limit of the number of transactions which it can run for a given within a minute, right? When you compare the number of transactions which Bitcoin can run and the number of transactions which Ethereum can support and the number of transactions which Tron can support, they're totally different. So with this, scalability usually becomes an issue also when it comes to blockchain solutions. And then we have privacy. And privacy, I know with the legal experts, this is also one of the key areas which most of the people have been raising a lot of debates, simply because we talked about the public nature of the blockchain ecosystem. So people are like, okay, if you guys are mentioning about blockchain technology being too much public, then we are so much worried about our personal data. We are so much worried about the sharing of information. Then it means we won't have that privacy. But I want to tell you also again, within the blockchain ecosystem, of course, we have got those which are usually called public blockchains. And again, we normally have what are called the private blockchains, right? And of course, as the market continues to grow, there is something which is normally called the zero knowledge proofs, which is helping when it comes to matters of privacy. And then with the security becomes a major problem. We have been listening or we have been hearing hacks left, right, and center. Of course, we are going to dive through some of the hacks which have happened most recently. So security is also one of the key challenges which has been hindering the massive blockchain adoption. And of course, the rising cost of blockchain implementation. I know most of the organizations probably implementing or integrating blockchain into their system. There are those cost elements which is involved, and they are also a little bit more cautious about that. And of course, the most notorious one, the legal activities, which of course we are going to dive a little bit much more about this one, digging on some of the legal activities which have got the nexus with the virtual assets. And then with the low workforce availability, the other day I was just reading a particular research, and from that research it was indicating that most Web3 companies which are coming to the market, they're doing massive job announcement, vacancy announcements, and people they are yet to find qualified personnel, the blockchain engineers who can be able to fill this kind of vacancies which they have. So through that is basically leading to what is called the low workforce availability. And then we have the energy consumption. And through the mining, which we have talked about, Bitcoin, This is a very energy intensive exercise, and through that a lot of energy usually gets used. So through that, most organizations are usually a little bit cautious because of the kind of energy which is usually consumed whenever cryptocurrencies are getting mined. And then, of course, we have the integration with legacy systems, which I also mentioned. It's a major hindrance block, simply because finding how a blockchain can be able to be integrated with already existing traditional systems is actually a key challenge. So these are some of the challenges which have been hindering the blockchain adoption globally as well. And with that being said and done, I think we are also going to touch on some of the security concerns and risks related to cryptocurrency. And of course, one which is prominent, which majority of the professionals whom they have in the house, money laundering has actually been thorn in the flesh. We have got what are called phishing attacks, layering integration, theft, frauds, and scams. All right, those are some of the kind of security concerns, especially which are attached to these virtual assets. And these are some of them. If the investment scams, all right. For example, the ICOs, the initial coin offerings, which have been one of the leading scams with in the virtual asset space. And with the ICOs, initial coin offerings, maybe just to touch on how it normally works. With the initial coin offerings, you find a group of investors who are coming together. They want to launch a particular cryptocurrency within the blockchain ecosystem. So what normally happens, they reach out to the public, those people who are willing to join their venture. So what normally happens, you will be required to pay some money, so that this money will be used to develop that particular cryptocurrency. Once that cryptocurrency has been unleashed or has been distributed within the blockchain ecosystem, once it has been traded and the profits are being generated, then you will get to share the profits based on the and maybe the contract or the share value that you guys were agreed upon. And we've been seeing most investors have been coming to the public with the words of ICO. They're coming with well-documented written white papers, yet ideally, it's usually a project which never takes off. And then what normally happens, these investors usually tend to disappear with most of the cash from non-suspecting victims. And of course, we have got the fraudulent exchanges. With the fraudulent exchanges, we have seen big stories, exchanges which are a little bit, I don't want to say reckless, but exchanges which are faced with governance issues. And through that, we have been seeing enormous crypto theft cases within these exchanges. Of course, the famous one, which for us, maybe probably some of you guys have already known, the Mt. Gox. And Mt. Gox, the other day I was following up about that case, and there is this nice finance guy. I think right now he's detained in Nigeria. He's called Timbrian. And that guy is actually among the lead investigators who really helped Mt. Gox when it comes to tracking down those people who had broken or hacked into the Mt. Gox crypto exchange platform. So he's among the top investigators who helped to unravel the mystery behind the person who had actually hacked that crypto exchange. Then we have the cloud mining, phishing, then the blackmail scams, business, government, or job scams. And these are just some of the scams that are within the virtual assets ecosystem. Now, you also need to understand that there are those most commonly used crypto assets when it comes to being used for cybercrime or darknet markets or illegal activities. And some of the most commonly used cryptocurrencies, of course, we have Bitcoin, we have Ethereum. And the reason why we are talking about Bitcoin and Ethereum is because they have a wider community, right? And they're also easily accepted, and they have been listed within the exchanges, right? So most of the exchanges are accepting Bitcoin, most of the exchanges are accepting Ethereum transactions, and through that, it makes them also like a soft target point for illicit actors, because they are being supported by most of the exchanges. And then we have got Monero, right? So Monero, maybe probably for those people whom we have interacted in the class before, Monero is categorized as one of the privacy enhanced coins. Privacy enhanced basically means it's one of the coins which it usually gives us, especially as security or on-chain investigator, a little bit of hard task when it comes to following the money. You cannot be able to follow transactions that are within the Monero ecosystem, because it's a privacy enhanced ecosystem. And if, especially for the on-chain investigators whom we currently have within this particular webinar, with Monero addresses, if you probably come to cross an address which begins with a prefix 4, that clearly tells you that's a Monero address. They usually have a prefix of number 4 and prefix number 8. With the number 4, those addresses which normally have, operate within the Monero mainnet, and then you normally have the ones with prefix 8, which normally operates within the Monero subnet. So these are some of the things which normally discuss in details and in depth during our class discussions. So right now, I'm only just brushing them through so that you get to understand. The most recent hack case, of course, which happened last week on July 18th, is about the Wazir X, which is an Indian crypto exchange, which resulted to the loss of over 235 million US dollars. That clearly tells you with the kind of hacks which happens within the ecosystem, or the illicit activities which happen within the virtual ecosystem. These people, they normally move a lot of money. And of course, with the Wazir X crypto exchange, they even went ahead to share it on their platform, and they even gave out some of the addresses which are involved in the hack. And with the 0x, for those people who probably normally love transacting with the Ethereum cryptocurrencies, the 0x belongs to the Ethereum. And there is maybe one thing I need to emphasize on, maybe before we jump to the next slide. I don't know how many people have, for the on-chain investigators who are here, those people probably tried following up the funds through these addresses which have been given. There are those addresses which has indicated no transaction has happened, all right? And probably as investigators, sometimes we tend to assume because it begins with a 0x, it's a clearly Ethereum address. But there is one thing that you need to understand. There is usually what is called the Ethereum virtual machine, or the EVM. And any token which is being supported under the EVM, right? Those tokens, they normally share several characteristics together, more so even how the address structure looks like. So what does it mean? It means probably you could have thought that this is an Ethereum address. You went, probably plugged it in a public explorer or a public forensics tool, and then probably you saw there is 0 transaction which has taken place. Only later to find out that this, once you take this and probably plot it in the blockchain forensic tool, and then you get to notice there's a lot of tokens, and through these tokens, a lot of transactions have happened with these particular tokens. That clearly tells you, in as much as initially, if the address was not even showing a transaction has taken place, it basically tells you this particular address is supported with EVM, and with EVM usually supports different types of tokens, and there are high chances, in as much as it's not showing a transaction which has occurred with this particular address, if you're very much keen, you'll notice that there are transactions which have happened to tokens which are supported under EVM, which has got similar structures as the one which has been presented here. So I know that might sound a little bit hard to chew, but for maybe on-chain investigators who are here, those are some of the things which you need to be looking at whenever you are doing your investigations as well. Now, we have a list, some of the recent cases which have happened. Of course, July 16th, July 3rd. This clearly tells you that every single month, there is a hack or a theft which happens within the virtual assets ecosystem, all right? There is a hack or a theft which happens within the virtual assets ecosystem. And something which is very much interesting is about the White House market. With the White House market, this is one of the darknet markets which happened to be in operation back then in 2019. And something which is interesting for those people who normally follow such kind of cases, usually with the darknet marketplaces, the authorities usually track them down, and we have been seeing how authorities have been at the forefront of tracking them down, closing those sites. But with the White House market, what happened? With their 2 years of operation, these people that already made a lot of money in the market, to an extent they even posted in the official website that they are retiring. The founders had actually made a lot of money. To an extent, they decided we are going to retire. We have reached up, our goal according to the plan, and we are retiring. It's the same case the other day when I was watching about a particular hacker who was confessing. The gentleman has made a lot of money. To an extent, he was saying that he has retired from hacking, and the money which he has made, it can be able to serve him up to his third generation. So, ladies and gentlemen, you can actually be able to know, to see the extent of, since the adoption or since the invasion of virtual assets, how a lot of money is flowing within the blockchain ecosystem. And I'm wondering, I don't know how many people do we have here who have got money which can be able to support even up to their third generation? Probably none. I don't know how many people probably here who have got money which can support up to their first generation. I don't know, probably few of us, right? In life, we normally have different categories of people, right? We also have that category of people probably who just have money which can support them. Immediately, once probably an example, they decide to marry, their money gets finished. Their money gets finished. It cannot go nowhere. But here we have scenarios of people who have made much money, which can serve up to their first generation, second generation, and even up to third generation. That clearly tells you how these illicit actors, they normally move a lot of money within the blockchain ecosystem. All right. I know retiring early is always a hallmark of every entrepreneur, but I'll always suggest, if you want to retire with money which is genuine, right? Because if you get it through illegal means, wait until when the law enforcement comes knocking at your doorstep, then that's when you realize your books have been cooked. All right. So there is one concept or one security element which we're going to touch on, and this is ransomware and the nexus with crypto assets, right? Because there's a lot which we can talk about, all these scams and frauds which happens within the virtual ecosystem. But today, I will just want us to narrow on ransomware. And maybe for cybersecurity experts who are here, I know probably you understand ransomware, and I'll try as much as I can to define it in a layman's language so that for those people who are not within the cyberspace, you can be able to understand. Ransomware basically means a piece of software which, once installed into your computer, it locks your computer so that you cannot be able to get access, or it locks your documents so that you cannot be able to get access to those documents. So what normally happens, in order for you to get access to these documents, you need to pay what is called a ransom. So through that, once you pay the ransom, then the attacker will give you back access to either your computer or your document. That is the basic definition of ransomware. I know with cybersecurity experts, there are a lot of tongue twisting, technical definitions which normally have, but I'm trying to make it a little bit more simple, simpler, especially for those people who have joined this particular webinar. So with the ransomware, it started back then in 1989, and that's when the AIDS Trojan was introduced. And this AIDS Trojan was introduced into the market by one of the biologists by the name Joseph Pope. And Joseph Pope, he had attended one of the World Health Organization's event, and through that, through the floppy disk, he had distributed around 20,000 floppy disks. And what happened when the users entered this floppy disk into their laptops or computers, for those people who had an opportunity to use computers back then in 1989, this is the pop-up message which came up. And through this pop-up message, it indicated very crucial information. And one of the information or some of the key features which ransomware usually have is they normally indicate the reason why they've blocked maybe your data. And through that, they usually ask for a ransom, and they quote the amount of money that you're supposed to pay. And they usually give you an address on how you're supposed to make that payment. Back then in 1989, virtual assets were not there. So in this particular case, with this particular person, he gave out the address on how that money is supposed to be shipped. And with this, it was so easy with the law enforcement so that they were able to apprehend this particular person and even make some arrest. But immediately after 1989, coming forward to the 2000s, 2010, we have been seeing emergence of ransomware groups, all right? And with the ransomware groups, personally, I love referring to them as, this is just more of corporate terrorism. And you can be able to see right now, the years when we have got virtual assets being introduced to the system, lots and lots of ransomware groups are basically springing up in the marketplace, all right? And we are going to see the reason why. And some of the properties of cryptocurrencies that basically make them well suited for ransom payment, number one is because of censorship resistance. And it's because also with cryptocurrencies, they're virtual, and they also have what is called the pseudonymity. Pseudonymity basically means they mask. Whenever you're conducting the transactions, there is a possibility you can be able to mask the person behind so that you'll be able just to interact with the wallet addresses. But there is a vulnerable point, all right? And one of the key vulnerable points, of course, when it comes to ransomware payment is the transparency nature of crypto or virtual assets transactions. And I'm going to take you through just how this transparency basically looks like within the blockchain ecosystem. This is a transaction which I did from my Binance hot wallet, and I was just transferring some of the tokens early this month. The third, it has been indicated 3rd of July 2024. I was moving some of the tokens from my Binance wallet and transferring them to another hot wallet which I have, right? Remember, we have talked about wallets. So I took that particular address and I plotted it in the open source explorer. With the open source explorers, these are explorers which can help you to know, or which can be able to help you to see the flow of funds, how they normally happen within the blockchain ecosystem. We normally have those public explorers, which you as an individual can basically go and access and probably see the flow of funds. And then we have the private proprietary explorers or forensics tools, of which we happen to be having right here in our lab. So I happen to paste this transaction in an open source explorer, and with the explorer gives me detailed information, especially as an investigator, some of the information which I'll be looking for whenever, let's say, I've received a ransomware case. And of course, with this information, of course, we'll be looking at the transactional hash. This is the unique identifier which links you to that particular transaction, the date when this particular transaction was happened, and it came from which particular place, the Binance hot wallet, and it tells you the value of the tokens which were transferred, and of course the transaction fee. And I also happen to do the same with the blockchain forensic tool, and it also tells you about the transaction hash, the value, the type of asset, and the direction, and of course it indicates it came from Binance.com. I know probably majority of you guys will be asking, then what's the difference of using the public explorer as opposed to the proprietary tools? And one of the key benefits of using the proprietary tools, of course, which you normally use here in the lab, is because it gives you a graphical display, all right? So when I took the same transaction, placed it in one of our blockchain tracing tool, it clearly indicated where this transaction was coming from, all right? So it was coming from Binance.com, the amount of money which is being transferred, and of course, the wallet address where this particular transaction was channeled to. And this is some of the advantages which normally the blockchain forensics tools, they normally help out with when it comes to tracking down ransomware. And of course, this clearly shows the hot wallet where that particular transaction landed into, and you can be able to see the Binance token, the equivalent amount, of course, with the transaction charge, which have been deducted. That's why it's reading the 14.57. Now, I know majority of the people now, we have been asking, or you can be asking yourself, reason why we have been having the resurgence of ransomware. Why all of a sudden, with the blockchain ecosystem is so much transparent, but still we have more and more ransomware groups being introduced within the ecosystem. And it's because there are new innovations which are happening within the ransomware space. And some of these innovations are the big game hunting. With the big game hunting, basically it means victims are usually chosen based on their ability to pay ransom. And with big game hunting, they normally target large corporations, banks, and other financial institutions, utility, hospitals, and agencies. All right. This is called target selection. Those people who are in a position to pay big ransomware, that's what is called the big game hunting. All right. And then we have what is called ransomware as a service, another innovation. And we all know, especially for the industry expert or specialist here, in any industry, specialization usually leads to efficiency. And what normally happens with the ransomware as a service, this is just now a whole company which has got the developers, which have got the affiliates, which have got the finance department, which have got the marketing department. So they are basically running ransomware as a service. And what normally happens with the ransomware as a service, with the ransomware developers, their work is basically to generate malware, right? And the engineers, they are also maintaining the payment infrastructure. And with the ransomware affiliates, these are people who are now recruited, who can be able to do what is called the target infection, target research, and they are able to do negotiations on behalf of the ransomware developers, right? So this is just an example of how the dark side ransomware affiliate program looks like. And these affiliate programs, what normally they usually also come with the profit share ratio between the developers and the affiliates. And to some point, they normally share up to 25 to 10% in terms of depending on the amount which has been received from the victim. And these people, as I was telling you, this is a whole institution. And you can be able to see they also goes out and look for workers, right? And when you're applying, you also need to indicate your work experience, the affiliate program you've worked with, the range of ransom amounts you've interacted with, the minimum, maximum, average. Do you work alone or do you work as a team? And they also go and tell you if you're not answered, then you did not fit. There is no need to spam in the topic. I guys get the point. This clearly tells you running ransomware as a service is one of the innovations which is basically making these ransomware groups to continue evolving. And then we also have another innovation which is called double extortion. With double extortion, what normally happens within the ransomware ecosystem or ransomware groups, they have got different sites. So when new clients have been onboarded, they have got a location where they indicate the names of the new clients who have been onboarded. So other ransomware groups can be able to view these new clients who have been onboarded. So what normally happens if you are an institution and you fail to comply with whatever they're asking for, they do what is called the full dump. Full dump basically means they leak your data, they leak your information, they leak everything about your organization, which can be detrimental in terms of a company's image. I know conversations have always been ongoing whether it is legal or ethically right to pay a ransomware, but it's a very difficult debate. I know with the law enforcement probably who are here, they keep encouraging you're not supposed to pay ransomware. But again, remember, you are in a vulnerable position as an institution. I love giving an example like you are walking and then you've come across hijackers or you've come across muggers, and it's you and the mugger, right? There is no time to call the law enforcement person. It will force you to cooperate at the end of the day in order for your life to be preserved. And it's the same scenario which these particular institutions usually find themselves in. So what normally happens with the institutions which fails to comply, their details get leaked even in the social media platforms. All right. So I'm going to take you through a real case involving the rival ransomware. All right. So we are going to see how from the infection stage, the negotiation, the payment, and the laundering of funds, so that you just have a picture of what usually happens with these ransomware attacks. I know probably you might be thinking that this attack only happens to companies outside Kenya, but it's not a matter of if, but this is something which can even happen to you as an individual, right? So this is an attack which happened, a rival attack which happened to one of the victims. And of course, some of the things have been masked for privacy concern. So this is the pop-up message which popped up to the victims' back end. So with the pop-up message to the victims, it clearly tells them there is an attack which has been happened, and it also let him know that he can be able to access his services only if he's willing to comply. Right? You can be able to access his services if he's willing to comply. And you can be able to see he's being given ways on how he can be able to access the website for him to comply. There is the Tor browser, the Onion router, for those people who understand about the browsers. And of course, there is also a website which was sent to this particular victim, which he was able to click. And once you click that website, it basically takes you to your victim's portal. And with the victim portals, it clearly indicates that your documents have actually been encrypted. And from the victim portal, you can be able to see the number of days that you have been left with in order for you to comply, and the amount of money that you're supposed to pay. In this particular case, the victim is being requested to pay 50,000 US dollars, which is equivalent to 232.855 Monero, worth of Monero. And through that, you're being told, after time ends, all right? After time ends, the amount will double. So you don't have time. So it's either you act or you don't act. So what happens with this particular victim? He's given an option where he can be able to chat with the attacker. He can be able to go to the chat support. As I mentioned to you guys, this is a fully fledged organization, the ransomware attacks industry. It's a fully fledged organization. So with this victim, clearly say, we take you seriously. We want to work something out, but 50K amount which has been requested is too much for us to get our computers back. COVID-19 ruined our finances, and we don't have, right? And then with the attacker clearly says that my boss can offer 20% discount. And the conversation continues. So what happens? The victim asks the attacker whether indeed he is capable of decrypting the files, or whether he is able to unlock the files which he has locked. And the attacker, of course, assures the victim, I can be able to do so. So what happens? The victim shares 2 files and requests the attacker if he can be able to unlock. And what happens? The attacker unlocks the file. In short, the attacker is telling the victim, I got you covered. I am the OG, you need to worry not. You only need to comply. So what happens? The victim tells the attacker, we cannot be able to pay with Monero. And we all know, as I was telling you guys, with Monero being a privacy enhanced coin, it's not listed in many of the crypto exchanges. So the victim requests whether they can be able to pay with Bitcoin. You remember the types of cryptocurrencies which are being used in illicit activities? The victim requests for Bitcoin. Yes, the attacker says, yes, it's possible. So what happens? The attacker enables Bitcoin payment. So what normally happens, you can be able to see, and within my Bitcoin, there's a 10% surcharge. The reason why the attackers normally gives that particular surcharge is because when a victim is paying through Bitcoin or Ethereum, it's because those particular virtual assets, they are easily traceable, all right? So there are a lot of risks involved in stealing through Bitcoin or Ethereum. And the attackers understand the risks involved in those kind of virtual assets. So that's why he's actually even going ahead to charge a 10% risk fee. So what normally happens, the negotiation continues, and the victim asks whether the attacker can be able to accept $20,000, but the attacker tells him it is 25K and not okay and not lower. So what happens? The victim requests for more time. They can be able to raise that particular fund, and then what happens in return? The victim pays ransom in Bitcoins. Once the Bitcoin has been paid, what happens? The files get decrypted, right? So the victim is now able to access most of these folders or most of these files which were decrypted initially. So once the attacker has received the funds of the Bitcoin, what normally happens? The money gets laundered. With this money, ladies and gentlemen, money gets laundered to the darknet marketplaces. We talked about the darknet market. Money gets laundered to the exchanges. We have got exchanges which doesn't accept the KYC information. Money gets laundered through what is called the chain hopping. And this we are conducting trainings so that you get to understand what is chain hopping. How do you normally do transactions of forensic investigations when there is chain hopping involved when it comes to virtual assets, right? So that is how money gets laundered within the ransomware. Now, as I mentioned to you guys, you might be thinking that ransomware is very far from us. Kenya Airways, last year, December 30th, December 2023, Kenya Airways suffers major ransomware attack. And I told you, if it can happen to those other organizations which are based outside the country, it can as well also happen to organizations like Kenya as well. All right. A report from Communications Authority of Kenya. Kenya's fintech confront cyber threats as incidents hit 860 million a year. That clearly tells you how these kind of cyber attacks or ransomware attacks, they're persistent, that are currently happening even to the country which we are living in. Now, and that's now what brings us to the use of blockchain forensic tools, which plays a very crucial role when it comes to following and monitoring transactions, especially the transactions which are coming from the ransomware attacks. And with blockchain analytics tool, one of the use cases which it helps with monitoring ransom payments. We can be able to monitor a transaction probably through the address which comes from the ransomware group. And with the blockchain analytics, it also gives you an opportunity to follow the money. And with following the money, you can be able to follow this money and be able to determine which are some of the areas this particular money landed into. Did it land into an exchange? If it landed into an exchange, is it an exchange which normally accepts the KYC documents? And is it an exchange where the law enforcement can be able to issue what is called a subpoena in order for them to be able to give in more details about the person behind those wallet addresses for them to make an arrest? So those are some of the things the blockchain analytics tools helps us with. And also with anti-money laundering, all right? For those people who are running exchanges, all right? These are some of the things which with blockchain forensics tools, it helps you. It gives you an alert so that you need to know with the transactions which are passing through the exchange, where are they coming from? So that one you'll also be able to view through the use of blockchain forensic tool. And this clearly shows a database which houses which has got the wallet addresses from the ransomware groups. And I happen to have selected one of the ransomware addresses just to follow the funds and find out how are funds moving within the blockchain ecosystem, and especially funds which have been obtained through ransomware. And through this, I happen to have taken the wallet address from Medisol Lockup, which is a ransomware group. And when I plotted this into our blockchain forensic tool, you can be able to see the funds which came from Medisol Lockup. The funds went to a wallet address, then went to an OFAC sanctioned entity. Then the money was laundered into Mexico Global. And Mexican Global is one of the entities which, with KYC, is usually optional. And you can see the OFAC entity, bitpapa.com, which happens to be operating from Russia, which usually also becomes a hindrance when it comes to following this type of payments. When they land to countries like Russia, North Korea, sometimes it becomes a problem to follow such kind of movement of funds. And of course, with the Mexican Globe, it's an exchange which KYC is optional. So what basically does it tell you? With criminals, they find it easy to utilize such kind of crypto exchanges because they won't be requested to produce any know your client information, right? So in Kenya, does it mean that we already have cryptocurrencies frauds which are happening? Of course, yes. And from the magazines which have been produced by the Director of Criminal Investigations, of course, we've been seeing the Director of Criminal Investigation issuing some alerts and warning the public against the increased scams which are happening within the cryptocurrency ecosystem. And of course, for those people probably who have got involved in this Mara mining, I think probably during the beginning of the year, somebody mentioned to me about Mara, and I was interested to know more about what is happening within this space. Companies which are just coming in Kenya, they are just saying that they are affiliated with the main company holdings which are based abroad, and they are saying that they offer cryptocurrency mining software or machines. So what normally happens, they request people to pay for money so that you can be able to buy your machine, and through this machine will be able to remit for you some returns in the process. So basically what normally happens, once you guys have bought these machines, the company just disappears. And you can be able to see with the Marathon Digital Holding, this was a scam. And when this attention got to the real Marathon Digital Holdings, they had even to indicate it to the website, and they to let the members know that the companies which are running in Kenya, telling people that they are affiliated with the Marathon Digital Holding, yet in real essence, it's not. So they were just warning people that they will not be responsible to any Marathon associated scams which is happening within the Marathon Digital Holding, especially for those people who are copying whatever they're doing. So they have also been seeing increased crackdown. Director of Criminal Investigations sounding alarm on increased online cryptocurrency fraud scores. This is some of the alerts which anytime Director of Criminal Investigations, when they have such kind of cases being brought to their attention, they keep on alerting the public. While the coin operations in Kenya, one of the most, I know this brought a lot of debates on the nature on how WorldCoin were operating in Kenya, and of course the nature on how they were basically collecting data from people. And it even forced the Director of Criminal Investigation to launch investigations into WorldCoin operations. And I remember when this file was brought to the Office of Director of Public Prosecution, they had to write a letter, right? Because the investigation under the WorldCoin was stopped. And one thing which came which was highlighted in the letter is that there is no existing regulatory policy and legal framework on virtual assets. And that clearly makes it a little bit hard for you to start pursuing virtual assets and the criminal elements which are involved in that ecosystem. And that's why right now we are currently, especially as a country, Kenya has been seen making some strides. The other day, we saw the multi-agency group, which have been set in order to regulate the crypto industry. And some of the, we have also been seeing institutions like Financial Reporting Center, who have been doing the risk assessment analysis on the risk of these virtual assets, and they try to warn the public in case there are some of the risks which are involved within the virtual assets ecosystem. And of course, personally, some of the key areas which I would want to be addressed by the regulators and policymakers is how the licensing is going to work, the regulatory sandbox information, the tax on both income tax and capital gains tax, the consumer protection guideline, and the anti-money laundering and counterterrorism. So these are some of the aspects we will need regulators and policymakers whenever they're drafting the regulatory framework in order for the consumers who are based within Kenyan jurisdictions, in order for them to be protected. Takeaway points, even as we conclude, we clearly know that as ownership of virtual assets grow, new forms and tactics of crime also continue to emerge as well. Ransomware and other virtual assets listed activities are here to stay. That is something that you need to know. Blockchain analytics shed light with the takeaway points, as I mentioned. Sorry about that. I was just basically mentioning that as ownership of virtual assets continues to grow, of course, new forms and tactics of crime will continue to emerge. And I also mentioned that ransomware and other virtual assets listed activities are here to stay. I will be willing to hear from cybersecurity experts who are here. Maybe probably they'll be able to share with us whether we have one solution which can help us to probably deal away with ransomware once and for all. But based on some of the investigations or some of the cases which we have handled in-house, I don't think if ransomware is something which it's easy to do away with easily as that, of course. And the beauty is we have got blockchain analytics tools which sheds light on ransomware, and then ransomware strains and their victims can be monitored. Law enforcement can be able to follow the money. That's the beauty of it. Exchanges can screen deposits for ransomware. Non-compliant exchanges are, of course, the weak links. Monero ransom payment represent a challenge in the fight against ransomware, and having a clear regulatory framework in Kenya is key to help in combating the rise of criminal activities in the virtual asset space. I know probably I might sound, some people might find a little bit rushed, but that's why I told you guys we normally have trainings where we now get into details and dissect most of the key topics in depth so that you get to understand the concept much better. But you can always get in touch with me through Contact Us or my personal email address together with my number, and I'm always open for the Q&A session as well.
Thank you so much, I must admit, there was a lot of technical language for me, but I truly do appreciate your grasp of the area. We can go to the, actually today I've learned something. I didn't know what ransomware that actually means, for us who are not techies in this space, we just hear ransomware, we know about virus, but the idea of, it's actually a ransom that you're being asked for, it was a light bulb moment for me. So personally, I have learned a lot, and I'm just going to allow people to ask questions. For me, while listening to you, Saba, I was thinking from a point of someone who is not very conversant with the cybersecurity space, but I am a regular user of technology. I'm a regular user of softwares in my phone, on my laptop. And as you said, when we hear ransomware, it feels very far-fetched. It feels very remote. Like hizo ni vitu zinafanyikanga huko America. Like, like you never think about you being a victim of ransomware as an individual. So I'd like you to shed some light to someone like me who I don't exactly maybe run a company. So my interaction with data software is not on a large scale level, but just on a small scale level, on my phone, on my laptop, and how ransomware would look like for me, number one. And secondly, though I know you have highlighted some things like the investment scams and all, so I know I can be a victim through that. I know you have highlighted some of those, but the points that I want you to address, or the things that I would like you to shed light on, is to educate us on how we can take precaution. Taking precaution. How can I protect myself from being a victim of ransomware? What do I need to be on the lookout for when I see these links being spread around all over? I'm on social media, I'm on Facebook, I'm on Twitter, whatever. You're just seeing links all over. What do I need to watch out for? What do I to know these the red flags? Don't click on that. So just advise someone like me and any other person who is on this webinar today as an individual how I can take precautions so that I am not a victim of ransomware.
All right. Thank you so much for the question. Maybe probably just to touch on you as an individual, in what aspect probably you might come across a ransomware attack. I don't know whether you've been seeing cases where you've been having people getting their WhatsApp accounts hacked. I don't know whether you've experienced that before. Have you experienced that?
Yeah.
Yes. So
Yes,
so having that kind of a scenario, let's say maybe probably someone just comes and hacks into your WhatsApp, and through that maybe he starts blackmailing, telling you maybe probably if you don't pay X amount of money, I'm going to publish most of your secrets or most of your details in the social media platform. All right. So that could be the most basic level probably you can interact with a ransomware attack. And especially on an individual basis, getting maybe one of the social accounts getting hacked and being asked to pay money in return. And I think also maybe to touch on the next question, which you mentioned about some of the precautions which you need to be taken into consideration. Right now, we're living in a space where links are being sent left, right, and center. And yesterday night, I think there is somebody, we have been seeing people maybe in WhatsApp groups, joint WhatsApp group, maybe you're being told if you want to probably apply for a particular position in this X company, maybe click this link in order for you to be able to access and see some of the company information that's required. And these links, some of them are phishing links, because immediately what normally happens once you have clicked this particular link, these hackers, they now get that opportunity to be able to survey most of your data and how you're operating, and through that they can also be able to hack most of your social media platforms. And I don't know whether you have come across these people who normally probably share like a link in Facebook. You're being told probably click this link to watch this video, and then immediately once you have clicked that link to watch the video, then what happens? You start seeing in your profile Facebook page very nasty things are being shared, and then you're wondering how did these people get my login details, not realizing that that particular link which you had clicked in order for you to view that particular video, they were able to fish some of the details from those links. So I normally advise people, anytime links have been shared, always be cautious, try as much as you can to verify that link which has been sent. Personally, when I see links which have been sent to my phone, I usually have that notion of even calling the sender just to find out the link which you have shared with me. Where is the source? so that you get to do a little bit of due diligence before just jumping and clicking, because it might land you in trouble at the end of the day. Yeah.
Wow, wow, wow. Thank you for that. I think that makes this discussion very relatable, because as I said, some people may not relate with ransomware in the level that you explained, especially the corporate level. But now when you talk about WhatsApp links, Facebook accounts being hacked, and most recently people are now being hacked on WhatsApp. Now that's very relatable. And thank you for sharing that now people ought to be very cautious with links. I will look at the chat to see the questions that have been posted there. Someone is asking, okay, Patricia is asking about the presentation. We're going to share it on YouTube. So just watch out. You're going to upload this recording on YouTube so that you can always refer to it. This was from you, Wycliffe. How has cryptocurrency empowered ransomware attackers in the current space of VAS? That I think people who are in the cybersecurity space are better positioned to understand that question. Maybe someone in the audience can answer the question.
Yeah, I think I know I know someone who is using this access to have access to this. So somebody asked how it looks like me, yes.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going.
I know someone has accessed it. Yeah. So
okay, someone is
how has
logged.
cryptocurrency acquired ransomware attackers in the current space of virtual assets? And of course, with cryptocurrency, I know from one of the slides which are indicated some of the key features of cryptocurrencies which have been making ransomware to resurge or to increase. Of course, is that the pseudonymous nature of cryptocurrency, where there is ability to mask the person who is behind doing transactions. And of course, with cryptocurrencies, they are virtual. And again, with cryptocurrency, it's censorship resistance, meaning there is no any central authority who can be able to control most of the cryptocurrency transactions. And again, with cryptocurrencies, remember, as I mentioned, the transactions are very fast and it's borderless. All right. So I can be here and I can wire money to somebody based in Dubai, or I can wire money to somebody based in South America, or then in America. So it's borderless. So these kind of characteristics basically make it more appealing to the ransomware attackers, and that's why they're using lots of cryptocurrencies whenever they're asking for ransomware. And I think somebody just asked about what are my thoughts on the developers of Monero or Tornado Cash, yet are not involved in any crime. There is something which I also have to mention. Right now, with these buzz of virtual assets, I know so many people are coming to the virtual assets ecosystem. Right now, the pricing levels which Bitcoins are playing, that excitement is bringing a lot of investors in the virtual assets ecosystem. But once everything calms down, then with investors, individuals, corporates, they'll start seeing the need of privacy. Privacy basically means, given that with the blockchain ecosystem, one can be able to follow transactions, one can be able to view. Most companies will start becoming cautious about their details. Individuals will also start becoming cautious about their details. And through that, I'm seeing in the near future, anonymous enhanced coins, they're going to be embraced, simply because they're going to give people what is called privacy, which will be the most preferred thing, especially for the people who will be operating within the virtual assets ecosystem. I know there have been also ongoing debates. You find people who have developed Monero, Tornado Cash, the law enforcement of governments have been trying to do some crackdowns and arresting them. And the most apparent question which people have been asking right now: if my company is manufacturing knife, and this knife is being used by gangsters to stab people across the road, as a company manufacturer, does the government really, or do the law enforcement, are they supposed to come and make an arrest as a manufacturer of knife? Because personally, when I'm manufacturing knife, I don't have intention of this knife to be used on probably illicit activities. But the people who come and buy or purchase this knife from me are the people who have got ill motives and they're going to use that particular knife maybe to conduct probably illicit acts. So I know when there is a crackdown with the people who are developing privacy enhanced coins, that has been actually an ongoing debate. And I do believe, especially with regulatory framework, when most countries are currently developing regulations within virtual assets of the system, they'll actually find a balance, especially when it comes to security and privacy, which has been also a challenging key point between regulators and the virtual assets consumers or the builders who are basically developing this kind of privacy enhanced coins.
Wow, great. Thank you for answering these questions very comprehensively. Now, I see that we have ran over in terms of time, and I would like us to bring it to a close at that point. And John Wangi, okay, see, John, you're asking a question so that I don't lock you out. So we'll just answer this in a minute because we are way out of time. John Wangi is asking, are there success stories of tracking of money and bad guys caught?
Yeah. We have success stories of people who have been participating in the hacking on ransomware space, and we have seen them being apprehended. And if you are very keen, I don't know, maybe probably I can refer you and probably follow closely about the Mount Gox case, the FFTS case. And again, I know the reason why sometimes it can also be difficult when it comes to getting these bad guys, when you look at the countries where they're coming from. For example, Russia, North Korea, these are countries which are being considered as safe haven for attackers or hackers. And you can remember when Ukraine, there was a war between Ukraine and Russia, all right? When there was that war between them, what happened? Russia went and released all the hackers who were charged with, released all the prisoners who were charged with the hacking activities. They were released free of charge because they were called back to come and serve the country. When Ukraine decided to engage Russia in war, what happens with these hackers? Within a blink of an eye, Ukraine experienced a blackout. So these hackers, they came into play, they came into the picture, they hacked into the national grid system of Ukraine, just Russia to send warning signals to Ukraine that you guys, I'm the OG, and in case you persist with this war, then we can make your country become dust, right? And we have been seeing through that animosity, a lot of hackings have been happening between so many organization corporates within Europe and US, those people who aided Ukraine in the attack. And it's believed that Russia, North Korea, they're acting as safe haven. So sometimes it becomes a little bit challenge when you're trying to pursue or follow this money and you find that an exchange of this particular actor is based in these particular countries. So those are some of the key challenges that we normally face during our investigation processes.
All right, thank you. So seeing more questions are streaming in. I wouldn't want you to leave before answering them. So briefly, just answer Karaoke's question, who's asking if running an exchange is there a transaction monitoring tool that can detect ransomware transactions, or can we only investigate after the fact and file SAR? I think you understand what that means.
Is there any transaction monitoring tool that can detect ransomware transactions? Or yeah, of course, as I mentioned, with the blockchain forensics tools which are currently being developed in the market, and of course with the blockchain analytics companies, they are trying as much as they can to have key features within the these tracing tools so that they can be able to detect. All right, they can be able to detect the origin of funds. And through that, as an exchange, you can be able to know and tell that this particular transaction which is passing through this particular exchange is coming from a particular ransomware group. So those are some of the new developments which are coming to the place, especially the blockchain forensics analytics tools which are coming to the market. So yeah, it's possible for the exchanges, whenever they're doing the screening, at least there are some of the alerts which will be generated, so that when they follow through the alert, we'll be able to tell where this particular transaction, where is it coming from, and from there now we'll be able to follow that through.
All right, thank you so much. Philip Otieno, your hand is raised. Would you like to ask a question?
Yes. Thank you so much, Sarah, for the great presentation. So let me just brief it up because I know we are running out of time. Mine is just a concern. So I was thinking and I was following the presentation, and I followed the chat conversation that Sarah put up there. So I was thinking at the back of my mind, like if I'm a corporate owner and I know my clients put their trust in me, and then one morning I realized that somebody has managed to install a ransomware strain in my computer, right, or in our organization, I will not want to report because the clients will know and they will lose trust in the business and the reputation is going to be bad. And from the data that Sewe has put up, we are seeing a lot of strains coming up. And I think the main reason is because of insufficient reporting by corporations, because they are afraid of reporting and having a bad reputation towards their company. So, and also another challenge is because even if I pay the ransomware, or rather the illicit actors, right? I'm not sure if they decrypt the data. I'm not sure if they're keeping the data, or let's say I'm a financial institution and they have managed to have access to KYC information of my customers. I'm not sure if they're going to sell the data in darknet markets. So I'm not sure about that. But I think ransomware is a very complicated concept. Yeah, that's just my take for me. It was just a concern. It was not a question, actually.
Sure. Thank you so much, Philip Otieno, and I totally agree with you 100%.
Thank you.
Thank you. We are way out of time. John Mwangi, I feel like locking you up. Okay, John Mwangi, raise your hand. Please be brief. So we are going to have John Mwangi, and then we.
Yeah. Just 1 minute. So just to add on the point that has just been shared, I saw some statistics. Even if you pay for your data, you pay that ransomware, you're not guaranteed that you get your data back. And the statistics, I think it's placed over 50 to 60%. You actually don't get back your money. And on the issue about reporting, I think our regulation, the DPO, requires you to report any hack. So this is something that you cannot hold back from the regulator or your clients. So, and there's a time frame for it. That's all. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, John Mwangi. And maybe just to mention, I know we have Arthur. Arthur is one of the certified cryptocurrency investigators, and he has been actively involved in following the hacks which happened to the Waziri hacks. And we have been sharing a lot of notes here and there. And he's also a great gentleman. I expected him to say something. I don't know whether he's on. Maybe as we wind up. Arthur. Hello, Arthur, are you there? They probably just dropped out, but he's one.
Okay, I was trying to unmute. I couldn't.
Okay. Okay, welcome.
Yeah, I was following off. So
Yeah,
I was thinking I was not permitted to unmute.
Most welcome, Mr. Deji.
Yeah, thank you very much. I followed up, and I think the presentation is great. I think it's just for us to be able to have more of this, so that a lot of activities and a lot of risks that are open within that space can also be closed very well. And so we need a lot of maybe law firms. I don't know if Jongu and Associates are the only one I'm seeing doing this, but a lot of activities now going up within the crypto like we saw, and I think is great that this is happening. And maybe subsequent one we can now push harder for more participants, because this is very great resources that have been poured. So yes, thank you very much for the opportunity to also contribute.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Deji. Deji happens to be our senior partner at AD Forensics, and we normally do interesting stuffs here and there. So thank you so much. Back to you, Njoki.
Okay, thank you, Sewe. Thank you so much for taking time to come and share with us all that knowledge and all those insights. And I do believe that all of us have learned one or two things today, and we do look forward to having you in more forums. I see even for us in the legal profession, there's an opportunity to develop the legal framework with regards to the digital asset space. As you have mentioned, it's not a very developed, the framework is not that much developed, and I do see a lot of opportunity for us. So yes, so that said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for participating in today's webinar.